the thing that people always get hung up on, well, actually weirdly, the thing that people really get hung up on is swearing and bad language. And therefore I wrote a show called Bluestone 4-2 about soldiers in Afghanistan, and people would be quite surprised to learn that a Christian was a co-writer of that show, because the way the soldiers talk, to which I would say, that's how soldiers talk. I don't know if you've ever met any soldiers, but and actually soldiers who watch it sometimes do early episodes. The soldiers said, "Where's all the swearing? You know we swear a lot, right?" And we're like, "Yeah, we've already got a lot of swearing," but they don't even know how much they swear. They say swear words literally all the time.
Right.
It's just part of the way they talk. So we sort of had to back off that. But also when an IED goes off and blows up near you, you don't say, "Oh dear."
Yeah.
That's not the words that they use. And so it would be a sort of a bit of a nonsense to write stuff that is just basically untruthful. And on another level as well, I often say to Christians who are offended by the language, it's like, well, good, you should be. And if you're not offended by the language, I'd be more worried. So you can watch it, and you can, as C.S. Lewis talks about, surrender to the art form, and you've not sullied yourself by being offended by something, because we want to help people who have made poor life choices and now in this and that. And so as Christians, we want to be with people who we're not made unclean by being with them in the same way.
Yes.
We're not being made unclean.
I guess the response to that sometimes is, my day-to-day life, I want to reach out to anyone regardless of whether they're using bad language or not.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be entertained by bad language.
Okay, well, don't watch it then. I'm completely comfortable with the idea that, and I don't like bad language. So The Thick of It was a show I really, really did like. I think they went overboard on the bad language, and they sort of tried to turn it into an art form, whereas we tried to have it more as this is just how they talk. And actually intentionally, we never had any serious swearing in the first scene, the pre-title sequence, because we didn't want to put people off with the language. So we were always very careful to say we don't think swearing is clever because it's really very easy to do, but equally this is the world. So, and again, you know your conscience, and if you as a Christian think watching that kind of stuff I think is wrong, fine, I have no problem with you not watching it. I don't think you're at liberty to tell me that I shouldn't have written it. If watching that language makes you want to use that language, then you should also review whether you should do it, in the same way that if you watch something like Game of Thrones with lots of nudity, and if that causes you to stumble, well, then you should have a think about that. But be responsible. But I think Calvinists particularly, we sort of like rules, and so we say, no, you can't watch this, you can't do that. And actually Jesus's ministry, the Bible itself, contains very, very troubling, strange images. One of the things I look at in the book is that there are very rude words in the Bible that we have changed and euphemized because we don't like the scatological sort of toilet words that are used occasionally, not very often, but occasionally.
Yes.
And we've all been in church.
Paul in particular has very interesting language to do with.
I consider them rubbish.
Yes, it's not rubbish.
Yes,
is
it isn't
another
rubbish.
word beginning with S.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It is a really interesting one to think. Wow, there might actually be words that, to our mind at least, are, if not swearing, then very close to swearing in the Bible itself.
But also Christians can latch onto the language because it seems like such a hot button thing, and yet have a bit of a blind spot to the fact that that you do know that people are getting shot dead in this show, and you're fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay. You do know there's a commandment of you shall not murder, and one of the characters in the show is a squaddy called Mac, who is basically a psychopath, and he joined the army because he wants to shoot people. Right. And in the Christmas special, we had a great one of my favourite darkest lines is when they get a call out on Christmas Day. And they get ambushed by the Taliban. He starts shooting them, and he's shot one, and he's shot another one, and he uses a swear word and says, "Wow, it really is Christmas." And you think, that's a pretty dark thing. But that's like, people like that join the army, and you kind of need people like that to join the army.
It's almost a coping mechanism, isn't it? Some of that kind of humour.
And so I'm not condoning that psychopathic behaviour, but for some reason Christians are more worried about language and nudity. than all of these other things, which are
Yeah.
far more insidious.